So, you want to be a professional sports photographer working in the EFL and the Premier League. Maybe you're wondering how to do it. And if you already follow me on socials, you probably want to know how I specifically did it. Well, hang tight. Today's video is exactly about that. Hi everyone, I'm Maynard Manyoa, or just Camera Maynard over here. I'm a professional sports photographer and videographer working in the English Football League, that is the Championship, League 1 and League 2. I also work in the English Premier League, the one that you all love, and on some weekends I actually work in something called the National League too. So this question has come in via Facebook from more than 8 people since I posted about working in the EFL at the start of the season, this season. A lot of people have asked, progressively over time, like how do I do that? And Maynard, just how do you do it and how did you do it? Well, there are many ways to become a sports photographer or a videographer. And I think I'll split this towards the later end into two parts for viewers who are in Africa or anywhere outside of the UK, as well as those who are already living in the UK who want to work as sports photographers. But first, let me explain my own journey, because a lot of those questions have been, how did you specifically do it? So my story starts around 2016, 2017. I first picked up a camera when I was traveling to Kenya for a Google summit for emerging markets in Nairobi. Google paid for the accommodation and food for that trip. I only needed to find money for the flights. That was when I got my first camera. It was a Canon 200D, I think, with 2 very basic kit lenses. It was a gift from a guy called Shepard Bushiri. I was working for him at the time as the head of his external media relations. He was super proud of me that I had been able to get to that stage of a relationship with Google, such a big company. So he bought me a gift. In 2019, on a trip to Hong Kong, I bought a Canon M50 to start a YouTube channel for my journalism work. That YouTube channel is still there till today. I paid for that myself, and it came also with a kit lens, so I gave away the 200D to one of my youngsters. Later, in 2019, I moved to the UK to study a master's degree in journalism. While studying for that degree, I majored in photojournalism, digital production, and multimedia journalism. And I took on several photography assignments and videography ones as and when I could, or as they became available. And at Nottingham Trent, there was a guy called Russ Bingley who worked in the tech store at the university. Russ is a god of cameras. He knows everything about the physics side of cameras, the science part. So I spent a lot of hours asking Russ questions, and that's where I fell in love deeper and deeper with cameras. By 2020, because when I was in university, I used to work part-time for 20 hours. I'd saved up for a Canon R5 and an EF 70 to 200mm lens. And that's when I shot my first game. How? I emailed and DM'd several amateur clubs asking to photograph their matches. Most of them said no. Some invited me for a chat, but nothing really came out of it. But a team in Birmingham called Paget Rovers, if I remember correctly, they gave me a chance to shoot their FA Vase Cup game, and I gave them the images for free. I also, from that day, connected with the team they were playing against. I think it was called Sutton Coldfield. And I then went to shoot Sutton Coldfield the following week, and then they put me in their magazine. During my time at Nottingham Trent University, we often had guest speakers or tutors who were working professionals. And I always made it a point to take their contacts and to privately ask to shadow them. Basically follow them around, carry their bags, make them coffee, follow them around and do everything. The benefit of that was that I got to see how they worked. I got to meet who they met, and I also got accesses to the places that they worked. So when I finished my master's degree, I then moved to Bournemouth to study a PhD in journalism. Now, the thing with Bournemouth is they probably have the best production and journalism studios in the whole of England. They've got like top tier equipment, and they always get speakers from Sony, from Canon, from CVP, and other major brands. And for me, that was gold, because I shadowed all of my supervisors, I shadowed all of my teachers. including those who taught sports journalism, TV, and production, even the ones that were teaching undergrads. I would always follow them around, ask to teach with them, ask to learn with them. I attended seminars completely unrelated to my PhD, just so I could, one, grow my network, and two, get to learn about kit. I also continued shooting for free during that period, games in local parks, games played by people who were drunk on Saturday morning. All of this helped me to learn and build experience. Another thing I did throughout that entire time was I followed other photographers on Twitter, now X, and other socials, LinkedIn. I connected with them and I used to ask questions, like a lot of questions. Like if I saw a picture I liked, I would go and say, how do you shoot this? If I saw someone shooting at a game I'd never been to, I'd ask, how did you get in a position to shoot that? That added more strength to my network. Real professionals, manufacturers like Canon, Sony, retailers like CVP, Wex, London Camera Exchange, grassroots teams, teachers, business owners, club owners, fans, and more. I now had a very huge network within sports photography. So after 4 years of shooting, training, building a portfolio, and growing my network, I finally felt ready to start applying for jobs. So I emailed clubs, I emailed teams, I emailed players, I emailed media managers, league officials, friends, people in my network, everyone I'd ever met. And I just asked questions, here's my portfolio now, this is what I've been able to do, this is what I shoot with, is there any way that you could help me out, where can I go and shoot? And maybe I sent 5,000 emails. Maybe I never got a response, like 4 or 5 out of them, but that helped. And even though I was a photographer first and a video guy second, my first opportunity actually came as a videographer, and I used that opportunity to climb up the ladder into the EFL and then later on into the Premier League. Another thing is, I mentioned gear there, and gear wise my journey was different. I started on Canon, then I left when they blocked third-party autofocus lenses for the RF mount. I moved to Panasonic, to Lumix, but the autofocus was terrible, so eventually I ended up with Sony. Now, here's the tough part about sports photography, and I have to be honest with you. Gear is expensive. To shoot professionally, you need 3 camera bodies minimum. You need a wide angle lens, you need a zoom lens, you need a telephoto lens. In some instances, you even need a professional drone, one that can shoot like high megapixels. The cameras need to have high frame rates. So most start at like $3,500, with the top models going for at least $6,000 plus. Telephoto lenses like the 400mm f2.8 or the 600mm cost at least a minimum of $12,000. You need cases, accessories, and other gear. You're looking at about $30,000 minimum. Even if you went second hand, you still need around $20,000 to get all of the kit that you need to shoot. In my case, I worked as a journalist for Daily Examiner, with Words in the Mirror, Star, Express, and I needed gear throughout that period. So I got access to gear. I also worked part-time as an Amazon driver, delivering parcels, and I would also do Uber Eats. My wife worked in warehouses, and then later on she worked for Toyota, helping assemble cars. Those are all side jobs that we did to save up, because my wife and I had this big dream that this is what I needed to do. And that helped us slowly build gear. I also used my relationships with manufacturers, retailers, and stuff to access equipment. It wasn't easy. I have a big family, but I made it work. So before you chase the dream, you need to remember that gear matters, and gear is expensive. You can't shoot professionally on consumer grade equipment. Pro photographers, they all own their own gear. They're not clubs and leagues that supply photographers with gear. You are going to be hired based on the strength of your portfolio and the gear that you have. Those two things are important. Now, in terms of, if you're already in the UK, the easiest path is get a camera and a lens, start shooting for free. Local amateur teams, they'll usually allow it, and they'll allow you to shoot free. And if you're lucky, sometimes you'll get a player or two who will pay you £20 or £30 for a picture, which would be great. Use your portfolio to approach semi-pro clubs, and once you shoot semi-pro, build another portfolio and use that to approach National League clubs. And afterwards, you can apply for accreditation via the National League and attend games. They are less hectic than Football Data Code, the one that licenses you for EFL and Premier League. Also, network with other photographers. Professionals are always willing to help, give advice, and guide you. You can shoot professionally either as a club photographer or as an accredited media through the league. But I probably need to do a whole video explaining about those differences. Like after National League, if you're not going to the EFL and Premier League, there's two ways to go about it, but that is so detailed it needs a video on its own. If you're not in the UK, it gets a bit trickier because you're not likely to get a job offer that meets the requirements for a sponsored visa in terms of earnings, etc. So in the meantime, I'd say the advice is shoot games anywhere, everywhere. Shoot consistently, network with professionals in the country that you hope to work in. It does not have to be the UK. There's so many countries where they've got like brilliant league, Spain, La Liga, or in the French league. Just network. And in the meantime, be willing to learn, to shoot for free, to work hard, and to climb slowly up the ladder. It took me about 5 years to get here. So save up for gear as well. Your portfolio and your equipment are the biggest things that you really have to navigate. And once you have both, I'll then say, I'll definitely say you're ready. So, just to summarize, that was my journey. My journey doesn't have to be your journey, but I think the most important things are you need to network. If you noticed, even when I was in university, I was creating networks, I was shadowing people, I was making sure I'm learning, I was going left, right, and center to learn. Like I never stopped, whether I was at university or elsewhere. I got qualifications in my MA, kind of put pause on my PhD, gonna go out a year to go, but at the moment it's on the back burner. I'll go back to finish it, but use that opportunity for in school to learn as much as you can, and always network. Ask people for help. I'm a pest, literally. Like professionals DMs, like people like Mark Cosgrove, people like Mark Keaton, people like Corinne Joy Voto here on YouTube. They'll tell you I'm always in their DMs asking questions. How did you do this? How do I do this? Asking for help. And similarly, I'm always networking. If I have an opportunity to follow a pro who's doing something that I don't already do, I'll follow them and ask to carry their bags. I'll follow them and ask to carry anything. It gets you access. Two, you get to meet who they meet, and then your network grows bigger. And once you get there, it becomes extremely easy. And network is extremely important in journalism. There's no way I can stress this enough for you. And then you have to save up on gear. I know in photography the cliche is gear doesn't matter, but in sports photography it does. If you do not have professional grade kit and equipment, no matter how good you are, you're gonna struggle to get any kind of jobs because you need that. I'm friends with a couple of guys who are club photographers, so employed by, say, Chelsea or Man City or Manchester United, and they still have their own gear. When jobs go out for club photographers, they'll ask which lenses and cameras that you have, because clubs don't keep those. So yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and I think I'll do a separate video about the 2 ways you could become a professional photographer if you're in the UK already. Like I said, one being as a club photographer and one being getting accredited via the league or via agency. So till next time, bye bye.